Jurak Classic Whole Body Tonic is a dietary supplement, not a drug. Therefore, it is useful to affect the structure and/or function of your body in various ways, but it is not intended to and will not cure, mitigate, treat, or prevent any disease. Individual testimonials may not be everyone's experience and do not constitute scientific evidence. Jurak Corporation does not make any drug or treatment claims for its product.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to a great Sunday story, the Carl Jurak story. Boy, oh boy, I was thinking all week, so many things to tell. I made notes all over the place. You know, I've told this story over the last 50 years, I don't know how many times, parts and pieces of it as I was growing older and older, and as I continued to make the preparation for myself and friends and family over the years from the early 1960s. And I kept thinking of all these little stories that happened and how it was probably somewhat of a miracle that I continued to have it available. And even the fact that we're here tonight, the fact that we have this JC Tonic, Jurak Classic Whole Body Tonic. You know why we call it that? It's the classic because, you know, like a classic car, it's really, really something special from a bit of olden time that makes it really valuable today. And that's what it is. This is a very, very valuable formula, folks. It's classic because it came out of the classic years in the 40s. And we decided to call it Classic Whole Body Tonic. And, of course, whole body because it addresses the whole body. And, you know, as I listened to the disclaimer, I'm sure a lot of people listen to it time and time again and then don't bother listening anymore because they say, well, I've heard it. But if you re-listen to it, the words were carefully chosen. We chose words that do not say cure. We say give you vitality, give you better sleep, better life. It just perks up your body. That's what my father had figured out finally in those years that he worked so tirelessly trying to get something that would achieve what he was looking for. And as I mentioned on a previous call, he was looking for something to, I guess, prevent him getting a shortage of breath when he was mountain climbing. That was the extent of it. And of course, as he got into the plant kingdom and he started putting plants together and then making little pilot batches, little lab batches and giving them around to people, they started reporting other things and he started to examine it more closely. And that, of course, culminated when Dr. Mowry, who writes on our website, who wrote this great book, Herbal Tonic Therapies. You ought to read it. It's really good. He covers 60 herbs that are known to be tonic herbs. And I asked him at the time when I met him back in, I guess it was 1997, I asked him if, you know, how many are there? And he said, well, I'm not sure, but I know that there's not even 200. So there were a few more in our formula that he did not have in his book. And he identified them, and he said, yes, indeed, they are tonic herbs. And so here was my father working in the early days from 1922 onwards, really searching through the plant kingdom. Well, today we use about 6,000 herbs, so I don't know how many my dad went through, but he went through enough that he found the 18 that he decided to use in this formula. And when we put this formula out he put it out in the 40s and 50s, it had all of those good things in it, and it worked perfectly the way he had designed it and the way he finally came to the molecular chain he was looking for. But when we started this Matol company in 1984, it was less than the complete formula. It worked quite well. But the miracle of miracles is that when I decided to pack up and leave in 1996, I cleaned out the warehouse, and there were 4 little boxes there that I was about to throw into the trash bin. And something prompted me to open them, and I did. And, of course, there was my dad's original formula that I had stuck away, I think probably in about 1961, I guess, in those boxes. And I just stashed them in the warehouse in my little cosmetic company, and then just took them along with me wherever I went. And so they ended up to be in the Matol warehouse. And if I had not have gone that day to clean up some of my personal things that were stored in the warehouse, we may not be talking. Well, we would not have been talking tonight, because that would have been the end of the formula. As we know it, it would have been the end of saving lives. There have been so many miracles, so to speak, not the least of miracles with yourselves, with the thousands of people that had really incredible results that doctors would never understand, that the people themselves did not understand. But the fact is that when they did go back to their doctor, they were better or well. And that continues today, folks. And so those comments at the introduction about vitality, and, even if you get vitality, even if you get a better night's sleep, even if you get better digestion or poop better or sleep better or whatever, all those things are part and parcel of giving us a better quality of life. And that's what we have to strive for as we get older, because it's more difficult. There are more things on the mind. The body is not as limber as it used to be. And so can we do anything to extend our life, which is really what the whole thing is? It's a youth solution. It is so stated on the label on our package, because indeed that's what it does. We have literally hundreds of people who have been drinking this for many, many years. So, we have people that are drinking this on an ongoing basis. And there are hundreds of people that I've spoken to myself. And I talk to people every day, probably thousands now, that have the same kind of story. Maybe not as dramatic, but whatever they were suffering of, they suffer less of or not any more of. And I speak to people every single day who report that sort of thing is starting to happen. I just talked to a lady this past week who's only been on her first bottle, and already her health challenges have disappeared. Is it possible? Well, look, I guess so, because she didn't do anything else. But we have many of those stories, and my dad had those stories over the years. And when he started making this in the 1940s, he had the stories. There were plenty of them. There were so many stories that his business grew really tremendously. And as that happened, he started putting more and more money in his bank account. And I remember in 1947, when I asked him, or 1946, I remember it, he was on the telephone, and I remember there was the black telephone in those days, and he, as soon as he rung off, I started chatting with him, and I was talking to him, and I had asked him, I said, how much money do you have? And he said, well, I have enough to develop this car that I want everybody to have one. And he said about developing a small car. We have several pictures. And over that period, 47, he started in 47, and it took about a year to get the thing together. And I remember he got an automotive engineer from England to come to Canada, and he set him up to work on this, because my dad had an idea how he could make the car for $800 by, first of all, he decided the metal of the day was too heavy. The aluminum companies after the war were no longer getting those big fat orders from the war effort, so their sales were really down. And he thought, let me see what I can do. He took steel and aluminum and whatever else, I can't remember what the alloy was that he ended up making, but he went to, I remember it was Alcan up there in northern Quebec. They had a big aluminum smelting operation. And he called them and told them that he has needs for a certain amount of aluminum. They almost had a heart attack. They sent a VP down to see him right away, because it was apparently quite a large order. and their sales were just going down and down and down. So he got together with them, and he said, I need it to be made into an alloy, and here's how you're going to make it: some steel, some aluminum, and so on. Anyway, it was lightweight, and it was rust-proof. That was what he had already been thinking about, to make a car, because this was now in Canada, Quebec. I mean, everything rusts there in the winter. They were not throwing salt on the streets as they do today, but still, it was tough on a car. So he had this aluminum. Then he thought, what am I going to do about a tire? And he also knew that the rubber companies were hurting because they were not selling rubber like they were for the war effort. And so he understood a bit of what this new plastic idea stuff is starting to happen. And he started playing around with some of that and rubber, and he ended up making some kind of a mixture of rubber and plastic, and he gave it to a large U.S. Tire company to make his tires. And they said, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah, sure, we will. So he had all these things going. And he had this British automotive engineer from Austin Motors, or one of those companies. And here he was in Quebec City. I mean, Quebec City, for Pete's sakes, that's at the end of nowhere. And he decided he's going to do that. He rented premises down in the lower part of Quebec where the factories were, and set up for the production of the car. And he actually produced 2 prototypes. I mean, the picture of the picture that you'll see on the email is one of the prototypes, and he used it for publicity, taking pictures and so on. And I've got some schematic drawings still that I kept that are stashed away somewhere. I'm going to get them out. It was going to be chain driven. It was driven on a chain. Instead of all the complicated whatever drive shaft and so on. So here he was going to retail it for $800. And I checked on the calculator. $800 in 1947 is about $8,900, well, about just about $9,000 in today's money. So you tell me, can you buy a car anywhere for $9,000? Hardly. I don't think so. Even the least expensive from any company, Fiat or whatever it is, they're far more than that. So $9,000, it was going to be a car that every single family could have one. And he realized that after the war, the economy was going to start growing. There were, people were starting to make families again. The military was coming back from overseas, settling down, going back to their jobs or getting jobs or going to school. And so things were starting to rock and roll type of thing, and he said everybody needs a little car to get around, and that was the idea. So he got that far, and he made those, and here he was waiting for his aluminum alloy to arrive and for the tires to arrive. And he's waiting, and he's calling, and they're saying it's coming, and it's not, and it doesn't, and a week goes by, and 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and 2 months, and here he is paying the rent, having people standing by, and he just can't cut it. I mean, he spent all his money. So what did he do? He closed it. That was the end of it. They had even written it up in the newspapers saying, what an incredible idea, how great. Well, no, we have a cutout of one of the French newspapers up there talking about it. And so that was it. He just blew all his money, and that was it. He had to close it. And about 10 years later, he ran into somebody from that aluminum company. And the guy said, didn't you know? He says, what do you mean, didn't I know? Well, he said, the large car companies told us if we ship to you, we're not going to ship to them. And that was the end of you. Isn't that something? I'll remember that story for a long time to come. It's too bad, because my dad, again, was 30 years ahead of his time. The next small car that really took America by storm was the little Honda after the war. The fellow Honda started producing it. And of course, America was trying to help Japan get out of the war damage. And so they encouraged and allowed those cars to be imported. And I remember them. I mean, they smelled like, and they sounded like a lawnmower, because I think the fellow used a lawnmower type of engine to start with. And of course, one thing leads to the next, and you improve it and you improve it. But at least he was able to get it going, and he had all the backing of the government in Japan and everything else, whereas my father had no backing, and he had everybody attacking him. He was just too fast, and he didn't have enough money to sustain it. But, no matter what he did, if he had even had 10 times the money and keep waiting, they were not going to ship it to him, because it was not going to be good for their ongoing business with the large car companies. So that's that story, folks. Sad as it is, it was an incredible idea that my father had, once again, trying to figure out how to help the world. And so it is with the tonic. Thankfully, I was able to continue it, and thankfully, we will be able to continue it from here on and forever, because we have a good supply line with our raw materials. The botanicals are plentiful, and everything is able to be put together pretty quickly. So, of course, all we need now is for all of you to, how do we say it, pay it forward. We want everyone to pay it forward. But more importantly is the people involved with us. And a lot of them were involved in the other company. And so a lot of them were able to start the other product, see what it did. It did certain good things for them, and then managed to find us and continue on with the JC Tonic. And they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s and going strong. That is remarkable, folks, because it is not every day that you can find products that will be 75 years old and that work, that actually work, and that people don't fool around with them and change them. And, you like that, new and improved. So tonight we have a great guest who I'll let him tell you how old he is, and he's going to tell you how he started and how he actually met and shook my dad's hand way back there in when. Mike, get on the line. Hello there.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Super duper.
All right, fantastic. Well, I am 67 years old, and I started on KM back in 1989. And then in 1990, I actually qualified for a trip to Hawaii, and I met your dad out in Hawaii. And it was fun to see him talk up there. And one of the comments he made, which stuck in my mind, was, like rabbits they came, and of course he was referring to people coming to get the tonic. In 1990, I also introduced a friend to my product, or to KM at that time, and his name was Chico. And Chico was in very bad shape. The pharmaceutical industry was systematically killing him. They hit him on 2 shoeboxes full of medications, and he was in terrible shape. So I got him on the KM, and he went through a detox process. And I'm glad he didn't realize it was the KM that was causing him to be that sick. So he continued it. And once he got to the process, he told me that product had actually saved his life. And I believe him, because he was in terrible, terrible shape. And KM was a blood cleanser. And it did its job. It cleaned up his blood. It got rid of all those toxins in his system, and he became healthy. And by becoming that healthy, he never missed another trip with KM. I mean, he went to Hawaii, he went to Greece, he went all over the world with this product.
So that was in 89. You met my dad. Was it actually in 1989?
It was 1990 when I went to Hawaii.
1990.
I met him in 1990. Yeah.
So after that, what happened in your life as the years went by? Are you one of these that all of a sudden that product wasn't working anymore for you, or what?
Yeah. But before I go there, I want to tell you a little bit of story about my daughter. She was in high school at the time, and she was in weightlifting. Okay, and she was the only one in all the weightlifting classes that were ever tested for drugs, because they couldn't believe what she could lift. I mean, here she was. She weighed 135 pounds with less than 470 pounds.
Holy moly.
And one of the coaches came up to me at one of the meets, one of the competitions, And he asked me if she was a senior, and I said, well, yeah, why do you ask? Well, we'd like someone else to get a chance to win. So,
oh, hold on, because she's a senior, she won't be there the next year.
Exactly.
If she was a junior or a freshman, they weren't too happy. No one else would win.
Nobody else would win, and my son was the same way. He was following her up the following year, and he would always. I mean, he was just phenomenal. He could bench press 410 pounds, and he actually deadlifted 650 pounds.
Isn't that something? That is quite.
And he would just win every competition too. I mean, if you look in the record books in Colorado, my kids are in there. they won just about every meet.
That is tremendous. I hope you got them drinking the JC Tonic now.
Well, I got my oldest daughter. She came over and I said, "Hey, it's the JC Tonic. Taste it. It tastes just as good as it used to." And she took a taste of that. She said, "No, it's just as bad as it used to be."
Just as bad. That's right. But obviously the taste hasn't stopped many people over the years, and that is really great. Well, Mike, that's
the whole point about JC Tonic is people don't buy it because of the taste. They buy it because it works. Okay? And I'm one of these people where the KM quit working, and Chico was the same way. He started getting sicker and sicker again, and I said, "Chico, we need to find something to get you back in health again." And I said, "Hey, we're going to go and talk to Anthony Jurak and get him on this JC Tonic."
Over the years, I think there was probably a lot of people like that, but there were so many new people coming in all the time, you'd really only hear the great stories, and then all of a sudden people would drop by the wayside, and I guess it's because they just weren't getting the same results, I suppose. Particularly if someone was ill, then their illness could come back quite severely. In my particular case, or a lot of people's case, that no one is particularly ill, using this product as a maintenance, as something to make sure you don't get into a hospital, is probably quite a bit of a different story than if you're already quite ill and your body needs a lot of repair job. So people like Chico and yourself and so on are drinking the other product, and all of a sudden it works. It always seems to be just temporary, and I didn't really realize that until I'm hearing your story, and I'm hearing more and more stories in these last few years that maybe it was because all the ingredients were not in there, and it only was able to do a part of the job,
Yeah, I think when the product was sold to Primavera Labs, they didn't know how to put it together properly. And of course, you came along with the actual JC Tonic, the real formula.
As they say, the real McCoy.
The real McCoy. But I'm the oldest of four kids in my family. I have two brothers, or I have a brother and two sisters, and I'm the white sheep of the family. Okay, I tried to get them to go the healthy route with the KM, and they always said it was too expensive. I always ask people, what is your health worth? I mean, I would pay $100 a bottle for this stuff because of what it does for me.
Oh, let me take an order from you, for Pete's sake.
Okay.
All right, good. Nice to hear. Well, actually, I did some, costing comparisons from, I think even the KM was, in 1984, was on the market for $30. That's about, I think, $72 in today's money. So people don't realize that even at 3% increase in inflation over a long haul of 40 years, it'll more than double the price of something. So I don't think, as a matter of fact, I think it's less expensive comparatively speaking today. I mean, we have JC Tonic out there for $60, which is far less than the $72 it probably should be, and so on. So it's strange that people would always say that something is expensive, particularly if it's going to save their life or be good for their health. But going into a bar and paying $7 or $10 for a shot of booze They do it all day long. Isn't it funny? Or they smoke cigarettes for, what, it's 5, 6, I don't know. In Canada, they're $8 a pack or something, So it's funny how people do that. And yet the important things like health, they make a second-class citizen out of their body. That's really too bad.
Well, the funny thing is, my brothers and sisters in poor health right now, and I'm the oldest, and I'm not on any medications whatsoever. I'm in great shape. My brother, who's 11 years younger than me, 2 years ago had his heart attack, and my dad had his first heart attack when he was 54. My brother had his when he was 55. So it runs in my family. My sister that lives in Missouri, excuse me.
She's in Missouri and she's in Missouri.
Yes. She had to have part of her colon removed. And so now I'm talking to him and say, okay, what is more expensive now? Like
it is really it's too bad that people have to go through that before they realize that maybe they could have done something to help avoid some of that thing. But Mike, I've been talking to people for 50 plus years, and I still have some people I've been talking to for 30 years, and they think I'm a fool, and they think it can't be, and they go and have all the drugs, and when they don't work, they start having body parts cut out, and I keep telling them, drink the JC and you'll be all set. Oh, Anthony, come on. Hey, come on, stop it, will you? Imagine. It's more heartbreaking than anything that people are so close-minded. And in a lot of their cases, it's not the money. It's just they say, it's impossible. I'm going to stick with this, even if it doesn't work. All the drugs and the operations, and it doesn't work. And they stick with it. I just don't get it. Anyway, we're way off the beaten path here. And so, Mike, I thank you very much for calling in. That was what we wanted to tell you, folks. We wanted to tell you that there are people now sharing the JC Tonic who actually met my dad way back there in, 89, 90, so that's quite a few years ago. And, of course, it's nice to hear that because it sort of warms the heart that the old boy is still in people's minds, and he should be, because this product that he developed really is one of a kind. It's the only one. It's called a Whole Body Tonic, and it's called that for that reason, because it's the whole body. And folks, those of you on the line for the very first time today maybe did not understand some of the stories and the other company and the other product, the variation of the JC Tonic, but the idea of the call was to let you know that people have been helped by my father's formula for many, many, many years. First, when he started in 1943 and all the way up until today. So jump on the health crusade with us, because we are on a health crusade and we only ask you to pay it forward. Get yourself fixed up. Get yourself well. You will find out that this will be the cheapest health insurance in the world. You won't have to go to the doctor or as often. And we have plenty of other folks who are going to bring on the call. One fellow's 85. Up until a couple of years ago, he was driving an 18-wheeler truck still because he was in darn good shape. So you can do it, and you can do it for your children, and certainly you can help out your parents who are now probably in pretty bad shape. Everybody gets a benefit, no matter who, because this works to the blood. It's a catalyst to the bloodstream. That's where it all starts. Go on our website, have a look at success stories, and there is one little thing to click on. It says Success Story Database. Go and look there. You will be amazed. And find you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, everybody who has a health challenge. They have a story there. Go and have a look. And that, folks, is basically history part number 5. There's a lot more, and I'll be happy to share all that with you. I wanted, though, to remind everybody, I don't know if you've noticed, but the last email blast that you got, our newsletter, talking about this call and sending along last week's call, did you scroll down and see what's there? No? Oh, boy, I think this is genius. If you want to pay it forward, if you want to help somebody, and that's what you have to have in your mind, help somebody, save a life, Make somebody more comfortable. Don't think about selling them a bottle. Believe me, if you give them the correct presentation, they will want to buy a bottle. You don't have to sell it. So just share the information. And the best way with all this modern technology is that we can put the words in your mouth. So if you go to this week's email, and this will continue now in the future, you scroll down and you will see things that say, for example, I'm just looking at it right now. I just think it's so great. I've been clicking and clacking and having a look to see what's up and what's going on. It says, about blood sugar. So you click on that, and you're going to hear a story, just the snippet. You're not going to hear me going on for an hour. You're going to hear the actual testimonial, what happened with the person. It's fast, and it gets right to the point. So if you're talking to somebody with a blood sugar issue, you should have this. Well, if you don't have email on your phone, get it. So you can have this email on your phone. And you just scroll down to this email and click on that, and bam, it's right there on the phone. Let them listen to it. It takes 30 seconds, 60 seconds. They're all snippets. They're all shortened. They're just the meat of each particular category of health issue. There's one that says about anything. It's got everything. About endurance, about neuropathy. Gee, go and look. It's really, really tremendous. Make sure you get it on your phone. So when someone says to you, hey, Mary, what's up? Something's changed. You look different. Did you get your hair redone? What happened? And you take that as your signal that they want to know how they also can change like you did. And you say to them, what's your health issue again, Jane or John? And, I got a big blood sugar problem. I'm taking diabetic medication now. It's just really hard on me. You say, hold on a second, Jane or John. And you go to your phone and you go to that email and you click on this blood sugar and let them listen to it. Doesn't matter where you are. They will all have that 30 seconds. What you will not get from a person is an hour. They're not going to listen to you for an hour, or 20 minutes if you go on and on and on. If you get right to the point, they're going to understand. And you know what the next word that's going to come out of her mouth? What is that? What's that all about? Are you serious? I mean, whatever the words come out, they're all going to be like that, incredulous. But that's going to be a good sign, because that means they want to know more. Okay? So that was the main thing I wanted to finish with tonight, to make sure that you use that email for all it's worth. Go and look through it. Make sure you get it on your phone. If you don't know how to, ask your child or your grandchild. They'll put it on your phone in a nanosecond. And so have it there, and then have them run you through it so you know how to do it. And next time you're at the canasta game or at the bingo game or in the grocery store, when someone says, oh, my rheumatoid arthritis, oh, my good Lord, you go to your phone and say, hey, listen to this. Even a complete stranger, because when you put the phone to their ear, they're going to listen, because people are curious. So they'll at least listen for a few minutes. You don't need a few minutes. It's 30 seconds. 60 seconds tops. And when they said, what's this all about? You say, come on, we'll put our groceries in the car and I'll chat with you outside. That's it. Every single opportunity you have to save a life, take it. Pay it forward. Help thy neighbor. Okay? Remember the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. All right? So have yourself a grand rest of the evening, and don't forget, as we say around here, take an ounce and feel the bounce. We'll see you next week.